The rancher had lived alone for so long that silence had become his closest companion, the kind that settles into your bones and stops asking questions. Elias Cole ran cattle beneath the wide Wyoming sky, a widower with dust on his boots and regret in his chest, until the morning he found the girl, small, barefoot, and standing at the edge of the pine trees like a ghost who hadn't yet decided whether to stay in this world. She didn't cry or run when she saw him, just stared with eyes far older than her years, clutching a worn leather necklace to her chest. Elias knelt slowly, careful not to scare her, noticing the way her dress was torn and her hands trembled from hunger rather than fear. She spoke only one word in a whisper: lost. No tracks led back to anyone searching. No missing notices reached the nearby town, and the sheriff shrugged with helpless sympathy. Against his better judgment, Elias brought her home, fed her warm bread and milk, and let her sleep in the spare room that had been locked since his wife died. He named her Lena for now, knowing names were powerful things. Days turned into weeks, and the girl learned the rhythm of the ranch, the cluck of chickens, the slow breathing of horses, the way the mountains glowed at dusk. She laughed for the first time when Elias showed her how to ride, and something long broken inside him shifted. But at night, Lena stared toward the mountains, fingers tightening around that necklace, as if listening for someone who hadn't stopped searching. If this story already has you leaning closer, imagine what comes next, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because this is only the beginning. Lena changed the ranch in ways Elias never expected, as if her presence reminded the land itself how to breathe. She followed him everywhere, asking careful questions, learning the names of stars and animals, helping mend fences with hands still too small for the tools. Elias noticed symbols she drew in the dirt, circles, feathers, mountains, memories she couldn't fully explain. At night, she sometimes woke screaming in a language he didn't understand, and he'd sit by her bed until her breathing slowed, haunted by the thought that someone, somewhere was mourning this same child. He tried again to find her family, riding to distant towns, asking elders, leaving word wherever he could, but the land kept its secrets. Slowly, love crept in where responsibility had first taken root. Elias began to imagine a future that didn't end in silence. A school in town, birthdays, a life where loss didn't have the final word. Yet unease followed him like a shadow. The girl flinched at thunder, froze at the sound of distant drums during a summer festival, and once asked him very softly, "If someone finds me, will you be gone?" Elias had no answer. He only promised he would never send her away. But promises, as the mountains knew, were fragile things. As the seasons changed and Lena grew stronger, the past drew closer, carried on the wind like a song that refuses to be forgotten. If you're feeling that tension rise, stay with us and hit subscribe, because the truth is riding fast toward the ranch. She arrived at dawn, riding a tired horse with braids streaked by dust and grief, her presence commanding the land's attention as surely as a storm. She wore tradition like armor and sorrow like a second skin. Elias saw her first from the porch, a hand instinctively tightening on the railing as recognition, struck before understanding. Lena stepped outside behind him and the world seemed to stop. The girl gasped, the necklace slipping from her fingers, and the woman dismounted in a single fluid motion, dropping to her knees as if the earth itself had finally given back what it stole. They spoke in their native tongue, tears and laughter colliding, a reunion so raw it hurt to witness. The woman's name was Ayanna, and she had crossed rivers, mountains, and prejudice itself to find her daughter, stolen during a brutal winter after their village scattered. She thanked Elias with a voice that held both gratitude and warning, because love does not erase belonging. That night, 3 lives sat at one table, bound by a child who had been lost and found twice. Elias realized then that saving someone does not mean owning them. Sometimes it means letting your heart break the right way. If this chapter moved you, you already know why subscribing matters. Stories like this deserve to be told. The decision came quietly, without anger. As the mountains watched like old witnesses, Lena would return with her mother, but not forever, and not alone in memory. Elias walked her to the fence line where he had first found her, kneeling to her height, telling her she was brave, loved, and never truly lost again. Ayanna promised the ranch would always be part of their story, and that some bonds are chosen, not broken. Years later, the ranch echoed with laughter again when Lena returned, older, confident, carrying both worlds within her. Elias stood taller then, knowing love is not diminished by distance, only deepened by truth. The land remembered all of it, the loss, the searching, the reunion, and so will those who hear this story. If this journey stayed with you, subscribe to the channel, because every story we share is about finding light where you least expect it, and this one will stay in your heart long after the final word